What do we need to make Space Marine 2 a fun, competitive game with PvP tournaments, Eternal War tournaments, and all that is necessary to stream them, to record them, to archive them, broadcast them, and have some fun along the way? Today I'm going to be discussing what I would do to make PvP immortal in Space Marine 2.
Our toll is higher!
Now what I'm going to talk about is not necessarily aimed at the developers of the game. It's nice to hear that you guys are watching in some capacity, but this could be something that modders take the lead on, now or in the future. Really crazy, fantastical ideas here, but what about if you could play as the Tyrannid in PvP? How cool would that be? And I think it's possible because I know you can kitbash existing models into existing unit control frameworks. I have seen modders doing this, watched it on stream, and I know that it's possible from other games and other communities too, like Unreal Tournament 2004. Been a part of that community for a long time. Also Renegade, Command & Conquer Renegade, the first-person shooter you've never heard of that is actually amazing and extremely influential without much of the fame behind it. Go check that one out, Command & Conquer Renegade, played a lot of that. You could take the Tyrannid models, even the boss models, and add a Space Marine control model under that wireframe, under that character model. Or what about something where you reverse the roles for PvE even, and you fight as the Tyrannid trying to break the Imperium? These character models are already in the game. Maybe Zoanthropes and Eurothropes might be a bit weird, but I mean, the models are there, so why not, right? Last thing, this is not a mod idea, although it does incorporate things like custom armor. I think there should be things such as chapter rules, lore accurate or custom chapter rules, where people who join the tournament can reserve a chapter, successor chapter or sub-chapter of the Imperial Fists, Dark Angels, Blood Angels, or Chaos if they want to, Night Lords, Iron Warriors, Alpha Legion, whoever, and their whole team must dress themselves, must spray their armor and get all of their stuff to look as cool and accurate as possible. Obviously you would be able to embellish the armor. Somebody might come in dressed as an apothecary, which is usually a very different color scheme to the other Marines. One of them will be the captain, of course, because on all professional teams they all have one captain at the end of the day, and a sub-captain perhaps. But there's always someone who's going to wear the command helmet or the command pauldron, right? And it would be really cool to see teams show up wearing a good, solid, consistent uniform across their team. It'd be great if people were picking existing stuff so people could cheer for their favorite chapter. I mean, that's always going to add appeal to the community, to the Space Marine PvP scene, and, tournaments going forward. That'd be amazing to see. We are going to need at least one spectator slot. Hopefully more, maybe one per team, I don't know. But it would be nice to have someone who is neutral, who cannot interact with the other players, cannot be seen, but can fly and no-clip around the map. However, if we're looking for a quick fix here, someone who is on no team, who is no-clip, meaning that when they walk into the other characters, they don't, interact with them in any way, don't block their path, can't shoot at them, can't be targeted by accident, can't be seen, etc. And ideally they'd have the movement set of the assault so they could fly above. I'm sure you could kitbash, break the current pack files out into something that would be able to be something like an invisible, undetectable assault class that could fly around the map. Bringing in invincibility and things like that might be a bit difficult for modders, but these are just some kind of ideas that come to mind. Because when you are hosting a tournament, as we've done in other communities that I've been part of over the years, you need the capacity to be able to film at least, and post about it post-fact, so be able to film, gather the footage, crop it all together so it makes sense, it's a spectacle, looks fun, and so forth. But it also needs to be ideally something that can be live streamed, of course. So if you don't have any spectator slots open, either someone who is walking around following parts of the map or is flying over the map no-clip style, as I've described already. I'm thinking of Unreal Tournament, where you could just open the terminal and type /no-clip, and then you'd be ghosting and flying around everything. You just need something where you can observe the battle without interfering with it. Next up, in PvP, what do we need in tournaments? We need the ability to have a clan tag. I know we can kind of do this with Steam names, but it doesn't really include console people there, which I think the PvP scene for the PC will be the only serious one, really, because, you know, of the dominance of the mouse and keyboard over players that are using controller. I mean, there's plenty of good players that are using controllers, but just due to this being a long-range shooting ballistic projectile, you know, firearm game, the fact of the matter is that the mouse is way better than any kind of directional advantage that analogs would be able to give you in terms of movement and so forth. I mean, my keyboard bindings allow me to just run rings around players that are using controllers. And all of the good players that I know that are not just good, but like game-changingly good, they use keyboard and mouse. We're going to need a focus on the PC PvP scene as a result of this, but obviously PvP changes should be extended to console. I really think it's important that the tournament scene have some kind of reward for people. Now, this is something that, you know, very obviously it can be a cash or a crypto prize, depending on, you know, how much your audience are okay with cash or crypto. You know, to me, they're one and the same thing, but I understand that some people haven't reached this or don't have this kind of cultural, technological awareness. That's fine. But offering a cash prize for winners is definitely, you know, and a tiered thing. So the top 3, maybe even 4 teams that compete in this tournament, they would be financially rewarded, or they would receive some kind of crypto prize, some kind of cash prize via PayPal. Obviously that has fees, so I'd favour the crypto exchange myself, but to each their own with whatever they would like to receive their prize as. But the top 4 teams, or the top 4 results, if we do end up with some kind of free-for-all gameplay mode, which would be really cool if they are going to release that, but it'd be really cool to see people being rewarded for their time, because you will see a huge difference in the commitment and the skill level and the plays that come when a tournament is paid versus a free tournament. Some players are really good, but you bring in a lot of mid and low level players who can bring out some really interesting games when you're observing people at the bottom who are going for a cash prize. You know, to some people, a couple $100 is worth a lot of money, you know, when you exchange it and so forth. So it's worth grinding that time out, especially if people have different job time commitments and so forth, and they can really focus on trying to be the first Space Marine to PvP Pro. I think that'd really help motivate the scene. The next thing I think that we would need to plan or consider is whether we are doing things like 2v2, you know, or we are doing 4v4, 5v5, 6v6, right? Because it's very hard at the beginning to fill 6v6 rosters. You've got to think about that. If you've got 2 teams, that's 12 players, right? And it's not much of a tournament if there's only 2 teams. So if it's 4 teams, it's 24 players, isn't it? So now we're trying to get everybody's time zone sync and, you know, be able to play at the right tournament hours. And certain time zones are excluded from this or that, or unless they're willing to play late at night on their time zones, or early morning, depending on which way their time zone goes, right? But there's going to be like a Western focus around this sort of stuff, as there always is with Space Marine. It's most of my audience, for example, are from the USA first, second the UK, which is my homeland. Third, we've got Germany, and fourth, we have Russia. So there's a very, like, you know, Euro, Pacific, Central Time, evening, morning time crossover. You know, the USA, parts of the USA, East Coast USA, and even the USA in general, right? There's a blend where people are awake and we can host tournaments and at an optimal time to appeal to those countries that I've talked about, because of course those are the countries that are usually everywhere in Europe, and Australia, Western countries, New Zealand and so forth, and even places like Thailand and Malaysia have a very big Warhammer community, wargaming community that absolutely love Warhammer stuff, but you've got to go where the main chunk is to get it focused. But the point of limiting things down to 2v2 at least, I don't know how that would be. It might be fun to play doubles like that. If you remember Halo 3, that was called doubles, wasn't it? Good old days, boys. But it'd be great to see some at least 4v4 at the beginning, because you shave off having to have those 2 additional players to really fill the game out, and 4v4 could have some really fun different ways of playing Space Marine 2 tactically, with seize ground, capture and control, and annihilation in place. The other thing to consider about with larger player bases is, are we just going to be able to find enough teams? We're going to need at least 4 teams to call it a tournament, right? Even though it's not much of a tournament if there's only 4. But I would say at least 8 teams. That's a lot of people when we're having 4v4, even then. But you need a lot of teams to really get a tournament or a PvP scene going. I'd love to see some at least 4v4 at the beginning, and getting at least 4, 6, 8 teams, the more the merrier, of course. But it'd be great to host stuff like that. If there's any clans that want to offer a challenge to anyone to start this real tournament culture going off, let me know. I'll try and see if I can organise something. If you are awake during UK or USA hours, I usually am for work and play, so you can get in touch with me on the channel. Drop a comment below. We'll get Discord sorted if you want to work on this together. That'd be great. Alright, next up, the thing to consider is the game mode. Now, for me personally, I believe there's only really one balanced game mode, but I think it has to be Seize Ground as the first option, because it's the most tactical, the most dynamic, and it'll be the best to commentate on, because there'll be no hiding possible. You have to keep those objectives to win the game, and it's a little bit reminiscent of the control points that you see on the tabletop game. Only there's always 3, right? But yeah, second choice being Team Deathmatch. Perhaps you would let teams pick what they would play, or flip a coin and the team can pick either Team Deathmatch or Seize Ground. Personally, I would play both, but I do think that Seize Ground is a more tactical game mode. Now, some possibilities in terms of mods and making custom rules for Space Marine. Now, obviously there's a lot of boring stuff like match timers, forcing the match to end, sort of like giving an admin or moderator or developer control to a certain spectator in the server. We're getting complex, a year or 2 away kind of developments here. I don't know, I really don't think this would come from the devs, but from modders if they really wanted to take this and run with it. And I think we've had some amazing mods at the beginning, but we would need very simple console commands, perhaps, abilities to start and end matches at will, set timers, give points, freeze the match, or kick and ban players, add players from inside the game to avoid loading screens and so forth. This would allow people to go in as a spectator, use the mod controls, set up a match fairly, check everything's working, hit play and go, rather than just relying on the servers that could go up or down depending on whatever. Or even better than this, have the capability to build such a modified, heavily developed set of admin and mod controls, and then move it to a private server where you are playing and hosting the game, so that you are independent of the Saber interactive saves. I've just asked for years of work in one very simple few sentences and points there, haven't I? But these are things to consider long term if we want the infrastructure of Space Marine 2 to be able to host the best engine where Marines can fight, Loyalists and Traitors can fight. It'd be great to see Space Marine 2 have full old school style admin controls where admins can run servers themselves, host these tournaments in good connection, low ping locations that are fair for people in tournaments, but also moderate them you know, add things in and out for fun, and I'd really love to see that. Now, it would be great also to see custom weapons being brought into PvP. Now, this is already something that is possible, but if you do it, you are going to get banned and kicked. Now, I've heard gossip, rumours, and no screenshots, no pictures yet, of people getting the Volkite pistol into PvP. Personally, I haven't seen it. Perhaps it's nonsense, perhaps it's not. But it would be great to see fully custom weapons, or things like the Flamer being brought into PvP. It'd be great to see things like balance being applied to weapons like the Heavy Incinerator. Oh, for one moment there I called it the Incinerator, but I of course mean the Multi-Melter, the large heavy melter. It'd be great to see that weapon become more viable. Perhaps it would be, at extremely close range, an instant kill weapon, because something like that, you just don't see it being used competitively. Things like the standard bolter are amazing and immortal weapons, but things like the heavy melter should not be excluded and non-viable. Also, the bolt carbine, the bolt sniper rifle needs some love. It'd be nice to see both custom weapons come in and perhaps a better or community-driven balance patch be applied to PvP. Okay guys, those are my thoughts and ideas. These have been some pictures of mods that people are working on for Space Marine 2 here in the background. Let me know what you think in a comment below about how we can improve the Space Marine 2 PvP scene via mods. How can we set things up for tournaments in the future? And what are your ideas about what I've said here? Or do you want to add anything, criticize anything I've said? Drop a comment and subscribe to the Club Zork YouTube channel. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Take care.